Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a brand new fast move in the world of Pokemon Go, Sand Attack. Sand Attack is a ground type fast move, and it is a clone of the existing fast move of Fury Cutter. So it doesn't do a ton of damage, but it generates a lot of energy. And the Pokemon that we're looking at today is Furfrou. Furfrou released a while back, but it was stuck with terrible fast moves like Feint Attack, so it really didn't see any play. However, I'm excited to see what it can do with a competent fast move. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out Sand Attack Furfrou in the Open Great League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a positive lead, Annihilape versus Shadow Dragonair. I am back running Night Slash, but I'm still going to bait the potential Ice Punch, as the opponent is going to be forced to shield. I save switch into Lickitung, opponent sends in Vigoroth, and that is extremely unfortunate for me. The good news is I was able to bait out the counter user to hopefully free up Furfrou in the endgame, but the bad news is my Lickitung is in absolute shambles going up against the Vigoroth. Vigoroth will go for the Body Slam. I'm looking to try and make it to the back-to-back Body Slams. I can't get there, so I try and go for the Power Whip, but unfortunately, apparently I clicked it too late, so I end up losing all that energy. And that's a problem, as now my opponent is actually going to be able to force a shield here. This is really not ideal. That is a definite misplay on my part. I'm able to get a farm down and leave with a lot of energy, which is quite nice. In comes the Dragonair, and I'm firing off the Night Slash. Night Slash is going to be getting the opponent quite low. They're going to let it go, and they're going to fire off the Aqua Tail. I'm going to let this go and trust in Furfrou with a shield. In comes Furfrou in the back. It's Lantern, and first off, the Sand Attack animation is very cool. It almost looks like a little mini sandstorm every time Furfrou attacks. I go for the Grass Knot. That does some very nice damage, and it's a Charge Attack priority tie. They end up baiting with the Surf. I continue to farm up with the Furfrou, and now that I landed the Grass Knot, I can just fire off the Surf. The Surf will be shielded. Lantern continuing to farm. They're firing off energy here. No shields left for the Furfrou. The Thunderbolt will not KO. Furfrou gets the Sand Attack farm down. In comes the Dragonair, but it does not get the move. Furfrou makes the Surf, knocking out the Dragonair and securing the win. Great lead in the next match, Annihilape versus Registeel. My opponent save switches into their own Annihilape. With two normal types in the back, I'm more than happy to see the counter user here. I'm going to build up to the Shadow Ball, bait with the Night Slash, opponent calls the bait, and I'm immediately put on the defensive. This is going to be tough. I shield and I get the call right. My opponent full sends the Shadow Ball. A Night Slash does not knock out here, so I'm going to full send a Shadow Ball as well. And now it's my opponent's turn to shield. I'm going to farm up with my Annihilape, switch into the Lickitung, and get the catch. Is it the Shadow Ball or is it the bait? It's the Night Slash bait. Either way, I did need to preserve my Annihilape for getting rid of the Registeel later in the match, so even though I didn't get the catch, my Lickitung will be very effective as a damage sponge here, as my opponent fires Night Slash after Night Slash after Night Slash, and Lickitung is there to absorb the energy. My opponent will be sending back in the Registeel into the Lickitung. As Registeel, this is perfect lock-on farm down range for my opponent, and of course, Registeel is a complete wall to the energy from the Lickitung. Lickitung goes for the Body Slam. I'd love to make it to a Power Whip, but I wasn't sure if I was going to get there, so I go for the guaranteed damage from the Body Slam. In hindsight, I think I could have gotten to that Power Whip. It would have been real close, though. I send in Annihilape. For some reason, in my head, I thought I lived this. I definitely do not. And now, I just need Furfrou to clutch. Furfrou farming up energy here. Opponent tries to go for a Surf Catch onto Feraligatr, and suddenly, it's looking like Furfrou can sweep here in this endgame. Grass Knot will be shielded. Furfrou continuing to farm. Shadow Hydro Cannon does a lot of damage, but it's going to do a lot less than a super effective Focus Blast. Now farm up with the Furfrou, go for the Grass Knot. This is super effective damage. That's going to be goodbye for Alligator. Back in comes the Registeel. Registeel now will be hit with the Surf. The Surf gets them low. The super effective Sand Attacks continue to add up. They're going to fire off that Zap Cannon. The Zap Cannon does not get the debuff, but even if it did, they were just far too low, and Furfrou is able to get that win. Dream lead in the next match, Annihilape into Vigoroth. Opponent save switches into Shadow Feraligatr, and in hindsight, I should have just switched immediately into the Lickitung. Lickitung does extremely well at shutting down Feraligatr, because Feraligatr can go for 2 Shadow Hydro Cannons, but they don't knock out, so you're able to withstand the damage pretty comfortably. They have a terrible time trying to go for a double resisted Shadow Claw farm down. So in hindsight, I should have just saved the energy on the Annihilape, and then just brought in the Lickitung, whereas now, my Annihilape has no energy. My opponent is going to be sending back in that Vigoroth. Here, I didn't think I was going to make it to the double body slam because I would have had to risk new mechanic. My opponent in the back, they have Hakamo-o, and this is actually bad, as unfortunately, I don't really have a good way to get rid of this Hakamo-o. Hakamo-o is going to go for the Brick Break now with a guaranteed defense drop, and I'm in a world of trouble here. The Surf will be shielded, continuing to farm up with the Furfrou. I'm unable to make it to the Grass Knot, so I only go for the Surf. The Surf is going to be no shielded. The switch into the Annihilape, I'm not going to shield. They're going to go for the Brick Break here, but that's the thing, that's exactly what they need to do. Due to the defense drop, I'm now in a dangerous position where I might get farmed down, and it looks like they do get the Dragon Tail down, and I'm going to lose with both my shields remaining. I'm looking for redemption in the next match as I lead Annihilape into Shadow Victory Bell. It's always a really unfortunate feeling to lose without using either of your shields. I go for the Night Slash, I get the shield. My opponent is going to be staying in here with the Victory Bell as I bring in the Lickitung and firing off a move. It's the Leaf Tornado. Leaf Tornado does not get the debuff, and a bit of luck goes my way. I fire off the Body Slam. This should just about KO. Opponent commits the shield. They're double shielding, looking for the farm down, but the Lickitung says no. Lickitung able to make one final Body Slam, knocking out the Victory Bell, and I'm in a commanding position. They send in the Whiscash. It's Furfrou time. Furfrou, these sand attacks not doing a whole lot, but the sand attacks are charging up that Grass Knot, which will be double super effective. The Skull does get the debuff. This means that I think they actually might be able to survive this Grass Knot. We'll have to see. The Grass Knot is going to do massive damage to the Whiscash. Whiscash barely able to hang on. Whiscash will fire off the Mud Bomb. That's not going to be a problem. In the back, they have a Azumarill. I'm farming up energy with the Furfrou, the switch into the Annihilape, and getting the catch of the Ice Beam. Opponent is going to go for an undercharge on the Ice Beam. They're looking for the full bubble farm down here, and unfortunately for my opponent, the undercharge was just slightly too much. That allows me to make it to a Shadow Ball, and at this point, the game's over. The opponent just lets me get some extra counters in, but realistically, it's not going to matter either way, as I can shield this up, and I just have way too much energy on the Furfrou. Furfrou at the back-to-back Grass Knots here. Grass Knot number 1 KOs the Azu, and all they have left in the back is that 1 HP Whiscash. Could have gone for the Grass Knot, but I figured may as well just farm down. Annihilape into Shadow Dragonair. Good lead for the Annihilape. Again, I don't have the Ice Punch, but I'm going to bait it and go for the Night Slash. And the Ice Punch bait does get the shield. I'm going to pivot into the Lickitung. My opponent stays in here to fire off some energy. That's very okay with me. Body Slam is going to connect. Lickitung continuing to farm. Opponent sends in Shadow Alolan Sandslash, and they're on Shadow Claw as well. The interesting thing about them being Shadow Claw is they have absolutely zero ability to ever farm me down. I'm able to land the Body Slam. I'm now going to go for the Power Whip. The Power Whip is going to connect, getting my opponent low. They farmed up a lot of energy. I actually don't think I'm in Shadow Drill Run range. We'll have to see. The Drill Run gets me low. Lickitung refusing to get knocked out, able to make it to the Slam. And this Body Slam is going to be no-shielded as I'm able to win switch. Back in comes the Dragonair, and I have a choice. I decide to send in Annihilape. I do want to preserve the Annihilape since I don't know what my opponent has in the back, as they go for the Aqua Tail. In the back, it's a Shadow Golbat, and this is not great. Shadow Golbat, of course, will be forced to go for Poison Fangs, but they are single resisting the sand attacks from the Furfrou, so this is not a terrific spot to be in. If I can make 3 Surfs, I can win this game, and with Furfrou, it's going to be really, really close. So, I have a choice to make. I'm going to shield, and I'm going to try and go for the triple Surf play. Furfrou going for Surf number 2. It all comes down to this. Can I make it to Surf number 3 here? Furfrou, farm it up. Can we get there? Oh, we get there, but we faint as we make it to the Surf. They leave with the Shadow Ball. That's going to be game over for my Annihilape. We see the Dream lead once again, Annihilape into Vigoroth. Opponent save switches into Shadow Feraligatr. Again, I stay in and go for the Night Slash. In hindsight, I really don't like this play. I would much rather just send in the Lickitung. This time my opponent commits a shield, so it works out pretty nicely for me. But still, just not the optimal play in that situation, I don't believe. I'm going to go for the Body Slam. Shadow Feraligatr, I'm not 100% sure on its bulk. It looks like it does actually survive the Body Slam, but this will set up a nice little farm down for the Lickitung. The Hydro Cannon is going to connect. I am going to get the farm down. My opponent actually stops attacking there because they do want some extra farm with the Vigoroth. They're going to send in the Vigoroth. I am actually able to make it to the Body Slam. Opponent may not have been expecting that. It looks like the Body Slam was a new mechanic there. In the back, oh no, Giratina Origin getting completely walled by Furfrou. The Lord of the Distortion Realm getting absolutely obliterated by a random puppy dog. You absolutely hate to see it. Going for the Grass Knot here. Grass Knot, I mean, everything's resisted, but the sand attacks are consistently chipping away at its HP bar. And these Shadow Balls, I mean, they are double resisted. I'm going for the Surf, and then I'm going to look to try and go for a farm down play here. The Surf is going to connect. Opponent is going to switch at the last possible second into the Vigoroth. I'll fire off the Grass Knot, and then I can just send in Annihilape. That Grass Knot gets them low. In comes the Annihilape. I counter down the Vigoroth, and one counter is going to secure the game. Neutral lead in the next match. Annihilape into Lantern. I'm going to save switch into the Lickitung. My opponent is going to respond with Goodra. Goodra, a very, very cool pick. I honestly don't mind seeing the Goodra here, as I know that I do win the zeros as the Lickitung. My opponent, if they're running the high attack Goodra, which it looks like from the damage that I'm taking they actually are, then I could potentially lose the 1s and the 2s, so I'm just going to play to the shield situation that I know I can win, which is the zeros. My opponent is going to be able to get the farm down here, so they will exit with a little bit of energy. I send in Annihilape, and I'm just not going to shield the Annihilape. I'm just going to trust in Furfrou. Let's see what Furfrou can do. My opponent sends in the Lantern. Lantern able to make it to the Surf just before I make it to the Shadow Ball. That's a bit unfortunate. I'm going to farm up and now go for the Night Slash. Even if they don't shield it, I need 2 moves to knock out anyway. They are going to let that through. Can Annihilape get there? Oh my, on 1 HP, able to make it to the Shadow Ball. Do they respect the damage? They do. It's all up to Furfrou in this endgame. I decide, I think, to shield this move, because I'm thinking, you know what? Thunderbolt's going to do a lot. In the back, they have Cresselia, and this is not a winnable game for Furfrou. This is a neutral matchup, but Cresselia is just way too bulky. This is a situation where, I mean, there's unfortunately a bunch of lag there, but realistically, it's not going to make a difference, where same type attack bonus would be needed to help Furfrou fight back here, but Furfrou only has moves that do not get same type attack bonus and hit for neutral. So double Grass Knot gets Cresselia close to a quarter HP, but Cresselia is going to very comfortably take this win. Hopping into the final match, leading Annihilape into Froslass. Not a terrible lead by any means. However, I will try and make a catch of the Shadow Ball on 7, and my opponent did throw on 7. Now, is it the Shadow Ball? It is not. They baited with the Avalanche. Oh, that hurts. They're actually staying in here with the Froslass. The Froslass taking quite a lot of damage as they go for another Avalanche. This is not going to be enough to knock out. I will be able to make it to a Power Whip. Opponent is going to switch into Whiscash. Whiscash will be immediately forced to shield, but my opponent is trading a shield for a bunch of farm on the Whiscash. Whiscash leaving with energy. I send in the Annihilape, and I win charge attack priority as I fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball into the Whiscash is going to hurt. Opponent is going to let that through. This Scald will not knock out since they're the regular Whiscash, but it will get me quite low. In comes the Furfrou. Furfrou continuing to farm and going for the Surf on charge attack priority to the Scald. This Surf is going to pick up the KO onto Whiscash. Opponent in the back. Oh my goodness, there's another Mud Boy, there's Swampert. Swampert will fire off the Hydro Cannon. I'm going to commit the shield. The thing I have to watch for is a potential switch into the Froslass. They continue to farm, they send in the Froslass. I go for the Surf, but unfortunately I mistime it. I was trying to throw one turn before, but I play to a CMP tie that I do not win. Oh, that is brutal. I'm going to undercharge the Surf, go for the Sand Attack farm down, and now I think I have to try and go for a potential bait and a catch. Surf bait gets the shield. I try and go for the catch, but I am unsuccessful. Opponent fires off energy. If they doubled up, I think I lose, but they don't have the back-to-back. Oh my goodness. I should actually look that up because I genuinely don't know. The Furfrou versus Swampert CMP. It does look like that Swampert does win that by about 5. All in all, I was surprised that Furfrou actually held its own. Furfrou, I mean, it's not going to be a top meta Pokemon by any means. I believe that it shot up from like ranked somewhere in the 500s to ranked somewhere in the 100s, and to me, that definitely feels quite right. Is Furfrou definitely does still have its flaws as a Pokemon, but Sand Attack does help it have a lot more consistent play than it ever used to, and I could see potentially down the road in a future limited meta, this thing being an absolute terror to deal with. Being a normal type in the Open Great League, there's always going to be comparisons to Lickitung. Lickitung is just the gold standard when it comes to normal types, and basically the gold standard for most any Open Great League Pokemon. And of course, it's not going to come close to competing to Lickitung. But as far as a fun anti-meta Pokemon goes, I feel like if it's well supported, Furfrou can potentially put in some work. The coverage that it provides with the Sand Attack, getting the ground damage, and then the water and the grass charge moves, I think is very interesting. So I definitely think that we should keep an eye out on Furfrou, as in future limited metas, I think this thing could be a star. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.